What adjustments is Denver going to need to do in order to keep up with this Minnesota team? Coming in here to game two, they are still the favorites. So stay tuned. We're going to go ahead and give you our key players here for this slate, and potentially get that 15K to first. Welcome to DFS Insights, where the game behind the game comes to life. I am David Geisinger, and alongside me is David Grant Jr., my cousin and co-strategist. The teams up on the block are the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Denver Nuggets.
With your lineup success as our top priority, this is where David and I will dive deep into our top three players that we like for this matchup. We'll break down the strategy behind our picks and share the insights that will help put your lineups over the top and into the money. So, if you're kind enough, please like and subscribe to the channel. We will be giving away 2 absolutely free lineups here at the very end. So, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a pretty good trade-off to me.
So, with that, before we actually dive into game two, unfortunately, we try to get a game one video up. Apparently, I'm terrible at recording audio. So we had the video up and just no audio. So that, unfortunately, sorry guys, we didn't get that. But I'll give you a quick breakdown here of the previous game here. So Minnesota ended up taking over game one. Looks like 106 to 99. So Jokic, Porter, and Gordon were the top 3 fantasy scorers for Denver. Edwards, Gobert, and Conley ended up being the top 3 for Minnesota. The optimal lineup, no surprise here, was Anthony Edwards. Well, that was a surprise. Anthony Edwards at MVP. Jokic took over the star. Then you had Porter, Justin Holiday, and Mike Conley coming in, both at utility. I think it was about a 5 or 6 way split here for the money there. So it's not too crazy of a lineup, I would say. And here is the ownership from game one, and then the salaries from game two. So these are also me. My projected ownerships coming in also to game two. I believe a few things will change. Alexander Walker, I believe, will probably take a hit in the utility wise, because he had a very poor game. So I think people game log troll quite a bit. So I think if you stay tuned to our key players, we'll go ahead and start breaking down who we think will probably be most utilized. So getting over here into game two, Denver's coming in again as the favorites after just losing. They actually gained one, so they were 4.5 favorites on game one. Now they're 5.5 favorites game two. So I guess maybe getting beat, obviously kind of kicks you in the behind, get up and going, but it is what it is. So Vegas has them at 5.5 favorites. Denver, there's a 205.5 over under, and then the offensive rating. This is for the entire playoffs. Denver's coming in at 112.4. This also includes the first playoff series. So 112.4 offensive rating, Denver 110.6, 95.67 pace, where Minnesota is by far the best team, both in offensive rating at 121.6 and defensive rating at 108.6. Pace 94.60, pretty slow there. No notable injuries coming in on Minnesota as of right now of this recording. However, Jamal Murray is he's dealing with that calf injury, so he is game time decision questionable. And I can send it over to David. He's been did a little bit of extensive research into that, and so yeah, what do you think of that Jamal Murray injury before we go ahead and get into our key players? And do you think he's potentially going to play? If he does play, minute restriction, Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I just I read that Mike Malone came out and said that Jamal hasn't practiced in a week, and so in their downtime he is not practicing. He's just trying to recover from the injuries so that he can play in the game. I mean, I clearly saw in game one, he was being affected and hampered down by that injury. Um, they're in a really tough spot now, down 0-1. You can't go down 0-2. So I think even though it says game time decision and questionable, I think he's at least going to try to play and play as many minutes as he possibly can. Since again, they don't want to go down 0-2. Do I think he's going to be effective? I'm a huge Jamal Murray fan. I hate to see that it's not Denver at full strength going against full strength Minnesota. Uh, I'll be lighter on Jamal Murray than usual just because he didn't look right. I saw what I saw with my eyes in game one. I don't know about you, but Jamal Murray didn't look like Jamal Murray. So until I, you know, see that, but I do think he is going to give it a shot, and we'll see how many minutes he's able to play.
Yeah, his first time in his career, he didn't score. He's had 0 points going into halftime. I know he did end up with 17 points and okay 23-point fantasy night, but not for his salary. So he ended up still playing about 34 and a quarter minutes. So he did play the minutes. It's just he wasn't productive. Like I mean, 23 points. That's what I expect from a 9K player. In the utility position. If I'm playing Jamal Murray, I'm expecting him, MVP star, minimum pro,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
fantasy production point wise. So he is a game time decision. He was last time. I so it just seems like if your game time decision, you have a career game going into the next game.
yeah,
Terrence Mann with the Clippers had a great game,
yeah.
and he was not going to play or whatever. But yeah, so let's see. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's see if he ends up being one of our key players here. So with that, moving on over here to the key players. Who do you got as your first one?
So even though we didn't get our game one pod up, I'm rolling with my same three from game one. So first up on the block will be Nikola Jokic. I know he is at 17.5. He was in the optimal lineup in game one, and he was the same price, I believe, right? Yeah, he was
Yeah.
17.5. So Anthony Edwards is the one who's now gone up 1,000. Um, but Jokic, his ceiling, he did have a 71, 72 fantasy point game when they played April 10th. So his ceiling is going to be up there, and if he's arguably the three, back to back to me to back MVP over Joel Embiid. He's got to step up and pick up the slack from Jamal Murray because unfortunately Murray is not going to be at 100%. Uh, the offense is going to have to go through Jokic. So I saw, man, Minnesota's defense is no joke, man, for sure. Seeing Gobert underneath there, Carl Anthony Towns, Reed, I mean, their defense looked phenomenal. They've definitely come a long way. So that was some really good basketball to watch. But I'll be having Joker at the MVP and the star only. At that 17.5 price point, you cannot put him anywhere else. I mean, there's just in no world that I see could he go in the pro spot. So I'll be having probably equal to the field of Jokic. Again, I just don't. They can't go down 0-2. If you go down 0-2, your chances of winning uh, decrease a lot. So yeah, no no shock here. I'm going Nikola Jokic as my first play. What are your thoughts? And who you got first up on the block for your play?
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm going to go, I mean, to be honest, it's probably going to be Jokic and Edwards as my MVPs primarily. I'll throw in potentially, to be honest, probably won't do Murray. I know he has the potential, but with that lingering injury, I don't think he'll be able to. I just don't see him outdoing Jokic or Edwards. And I mean,
Edwards.
unless Edwards, you know, he's still tired. It looked like he was getting pretty winded. I know they were playing pretty tough, but he ended up still doing great. But I mean, Jokic, what more can you ask? You know, 40.9 minutes averaging. His usage, I've never seen this. 41.7 usage. Like,
Oh man.
that's insane. Like, I mean, I think I've seen 33. I think was the highest I've ever seen usage wise. So, yeah, it's going to him. I think he did. I think he maybe, you know, it started. I say a little bit later. Like, feel more comfortable shooting it. It kind of seemed like he was wanting to be more of the facilitator versus the scorer, and so I think a lot of his points ended up coming towards the second half, like where he was, he shot a few threes and things. I know he doesn't look to shoot threes, but hey, dude, like you make him shoot him, get there. He did have his probably his worst rebounding of the series. He only had 8 rebounds. I mean, that's coming off. He was dang near averaging 15 rebounds against the Lakers. So,
Yeah.
that's an issue if he's not getting those boards like he used to. I know he can and he has against Minnesota. So, but I mean, he's going to be there. And what also hurt him to pushed him out of the, biggest raw fantasy point was his 7 turnovers. He's had 14 turnovers in 2 games, so 7 on the last Laker game and 7 in this game 1. So he definitely needs to clean that up. I think he does get frustrated down there if he doesn't kind of get a foul, but what NBA player doesn't? So so no, I like Jokic. Obviously, there's not too much to say. It's going to be, I think, him or Edwards, and then it's just, do you put both of them in your lineup? That's probably going to be, and then where do you pick the bottom of the barrel kind of thing? If you go both.
Sure.
So no, great pick. Can't argue that. So, but for my first pick, I'm going to go to the opposite side here with Mr. Rudy Gobert. I like him. He didn't have the best game stat wise in game 1, but I do like him at the star and the pro for this matchup, and I even liked him last time in the star and the pro. He coming in still at 13K. Salary didn't change. His minutes, 35.3. This is just his stats from game 1. His usage, which I think primarily had to do with him maybe just not feeling it. He was only at 7.8 usage. However, he still managed to get 38 fantasy points, which is crazy. Yeah. He is projected 37 this matchup. I mean, he's coming in game 1, 6 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks. He ended up with 38.1 fantasy points, which is nice. Obviously, it wasn't too nice to get him up into the optimal, but coming in, he was owned about 3% in the MVP, 16% star, 11% pro, and about 3% utility. So keeping him in that star pro position, I think I'll be probably a little heavier in star, I think, than pro with him, and that's mainly for the salary issue, because I would need him at 13K to get more of the star point range that I'm looking for. But I know he can. I mean, like I said, if he just got his typical usage, if he was feeling better. I mean, he was 3 for 6. He only shot the ball 6 times, and he had 4 fouls, so he needs to watch that as well. So no, I like him coming into this matchup. I think it's going to be a different ball game than game 1. So what do you think about that before I get into my second pick here?
Yeah, great pick. I'll definitely be having some exposure to Gobert. I like Gobert a lot, especially at the 13K. As you mentioned, he didn't really do a whole lot offensively, but he definitely made up for it. I mean, he's out there primarily for defense. So if he could get a couple extra rebound putbacks, to help his scoring wise, On the offensive side, then he could produce one of those 40 to 48 fantasy point nights that you're looking for, out of a 13K guy, to be in the optimal lineup, obviously. So, yeah, I'll be probably equal to the field in each spot with him. I won't have him at MVP. I'm not doing enough lineups to do that, but I will have a little bit of exposure to him in the star, and probably the most exposure to him in the pro spot, which is where he'll probably be highest owned. But that's okay. He'll still be a lower owned player if you're going that type of build, because again, there's like three paths to building a lineup to me. There's Joker, Edwards, just Joker as your MVP, and then just Edwards basically. So each of those paths take you a completely different build with your salary. So yeah, great pick. Who you got here for your second pick?
Second pick, I'm going to stay on the Minnesota side here and go Mr. Carl Anthony Towns. I call him Fouls a lot. So, dude needs to keep his hands to himself. I don't know if it's a record. Maybe if you do know, put that down in the comments. But I think he had his foul in the first 4 seconds of the game. Like, I didn't even know that was possible. So yeah, but anyways, I do like him at the Star Pro. I believe if he wouldn't have been in foul trouble, he would have been in probably the star position, and outdone Jokic there, because he was kind of on a tear going into it, and unfortunately, basically he just came in. He only played about 3.5 minutes into the fourth quarter after resting the end of the third quarter, and then he got his fifth foul with 8 minutes and 35 seconds left in the fourth, and then sat until about 2.5 minutes left in the fourth. So he went basically 6 minutes after resting for basically half the third quarter, the second half of the third quarter. So that cost him quite a bit of time on the floor. Obviously, minute wise, it looks like his minute, is back to normal. He's up there, 30.8. I believe he'll probably be more mid 30s coming in. His usage is, basically the second best coming in. Obviously, Anthony Edwards is, crazy, and he's at 22.7. He got 28.3 fantasy points in match one. He is projected 34, and I think he would have been mid 30s as well if he didn't get into foul trouble. So I'm going to have him quite a bit in the star in the pro position. I think, like you mentioned, it's going to be based on one of those three paths that I choose, but I will be pretty heavy on Carl Anthony Towns, because I think he was lighting them up pretty good. I mean, he had 20 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 turnover. Yeah, so he was 8 for 13. So he 8 for 13. He was 2 of 4 was from the 3-point line, and he had 2 for 4 from free throws. So make your free throws, dude.
I know, right?
MVP 2% owned, 13% owned at the star, 15 at the pro, and 3 at the utility. So yeah, I'm gonna probably keep him up at the star, because I think people might veer away putting him at the star just because they see that 12K salary, and they assume that you need a 14, 15K salary in the star. Obviously, if you're a professional DFS player, this you obviously know, but yeah, don't look at the salary, look at the production. So I think he's clearly going to probably be at least pro star in this optimal coming up. So what do you think of Mr. Anthony Towns here?
Yeah, that was definitely one of my main go-tos in game one. I really like the fact that he's 1,000 less than Gobert, and I think his upside is even higher than Gobert's. As you mentioned, he got into the foul trouble. That's really, to me, what kept him off the floor and from producing. I mean, man, yeah, I was real excited because of like as you just read off what the ownerships were. for him, and I could see it being the same thing, if not even lower this time around. Again, unless it'll be interesting to see how the ownership does change due to Edwards going up 1,000, Michael Porter Jr. going up 500, and
and,
a couple of the other
and he went
stuff.
he went
But
down 500. He was at
y-
12.5.
yeah, so that definitely makes him to yeah, like he's obviously besides Anthony Edwards, my favorite play from Minnesota, and he's probably he's in my top 3 to 4 plays for sure. I'll be playing him at the star, like you mentioned. That's kind of the where I'm hoping he hits,
Mm-hmm.
because he'll be the lowest owned at that spot out of well, he'd obviously be lower owned at MVP, but let's be honest, it's going to most likely be Joker or Anthony Edwards at MVP. Um, so going him at the star, I'll be over the field. I'll be probably way over the field with him at the star, and then I'll also have him at the pro as well. So yeah, great pick. That's like I said, it's one of my top 4 plays for sure on the slate. So
Nice,
I
nice.
guess I'll kind of.
Who's your second pick here?
So my second pick, I will stick with the Denver side. This guy, I've been this, I've been going Michael Porter Jr. Just anytime I get a chance to. His salary always seems to be right where it needs to be, and he always has upside. Um, so this is basically stats as far as playoffs versus the regular season. His minutes are up 12 minutes a game. He's averaging 43 minutes a game in the playoffs. This is not including game one. So this is just, I guess, against the Lakers. My exposure to him will be over the field. Um, he's averaging 38.48 fantasy points. Um, that's right, with the upside of 48, 50 range. And if Jamal Murray is not Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. is the next guy up to be chucking threes. And as soon as he hits 1 or 2 and he sees the ball go in, he gets in a rhythm and is just knocking him down. So I like his shot attempts. And as I mentioned, with Jamal Murray being hurt, uh, the next guy up to me is going to be him. So again, with his minutes being way up over the regular season, Mike Malone has a pretty tight rotation. Um, the rotation got pretty interesting, to be honest, to me in game one, to see Christian Braun and Reggie Jackson. Again, I guess that had to do with Murray's calf hurting him. I would assume that's why Murray wasn't out there for 40 plus minutes, because we know if Murray's healthy, he'd be out there for 40 plus minutes just as well. So yeah, Michael Porter Jr. I'll have him at the star and the pro. I will not play him at MVP, nor will I play him in the utility. Um, I, I just I'm playing him as if he's going to score 38 plus fantasy points, because he's been doing that consistently. He was in the optimal lineup last game. Actually, my top 3 plays that I had for game one all were optimal, so I feel pretty good about that. So I'm actually rolling with the same three people that I did from game one, because I don't see game two going all that differently. I think it's going to be another close match, and I don't see a blowout really happening either direction. I think it's going to come down to the wire again, and hopefully Denver takes it so that they at least split at home. But yeah, what do you think of Michael Porter Jr. here? He did go up 500 from game one, but to me that's fine. That just will help keep his ownership down, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like him. I mean, obviously, I wish he's he's getting up there too much in salary. I think it's starting to. I know I mean, he's been a solid play this whole time. It's just it typically is either him or Gordon in the optimal, and I like the Gordon with being the 10-5. It's just more of the salary play because with the 11-5, you're usually going to probably be pairing him with either Jokic or Edwards, and
Yeah.
And if you have him at the pro or the star, then you probably need another person, and then it's just like, oh man, who else do I pick? So
Yeah.
and that's, I mean, but at the same time, his production's been crazy. So he's obviously, if you're just looking, he's averaging about 20 points a game or so. His usage is up there, 22.2, so the third highest on the team. Basically outside of Jokic and Murray. Murray's still
Right.
up there. He, at least in game one. I don't. Yeah, the rotation was very weird, and I think that had to do with just Minnesota coming out and just basically pile driving the heck out of them. They were like down 20 points in the first 5 minutes of the game or whatever it was, and Malone had to do
Yeah.
something. So I don't expect Justin Holiday and Braun and Watson to get another 18 minutes each. Reggie Jackson, I could see getting more because Murray's issue. But yeah, it was just weird to see, Christian Braun getting 19 minutes last game, where
Yeah,
he was
for
averaging
sure.
5 minutes in the Lakers matchups. So I think that just had to do with how the first quarter played out.
What?
And then obviously
Yeah.
they started coming back and they got on like a 11 point, 12 point run. So obviously they kept those people in. So obviously just a
Yeah.
series of events that led to those extra minutes. So yeah, I see Michael Porter probably being second, third highest scoring person, raw real life points on Denver. Obviously, I think Jokic will be number one.
Yeah.
That's just how it usually is, and then Porter's typically second or third. So
Yeah, yeah. Again, it's counting. I'm basically not counting on Murray to have his typical superstar outing because of injury. I mean, he has a built-in excuse, so it's not like, uh, it's not like I think it's that they're locking him down or what. Not that I'm taking away from Minnesota either. I guess you could even say it's a combination of the two.
yep.
Minnesota top defense, and then now you're also not playing it anywhere near what appears to be 100%. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, no,
awesome. Well,
I like the pick. So I'll be kind of curious to see how you throw him in a few
I mean,
lineups and what other players go along with him
yeah, you
there. So
well you yeah well stay tuned till the end because he is in my free lineup that I'll be giving out and that I will be entering in my that has it's already been entered in myself. So,
all right,
um,
who's your
good.
third here? Play.
Yep, third and final pick. Big shocker over here, Mr. Anthony Edwards. Even though he has gone up to 16K from 15K, his minutes in the playoffs, he's averaging about 42 minutes a game. I can't, I just, I can't ignore that. He is clearly Minnesota's number one player. Um, coming off back-to-back 40-point real life point performances in the playoffs. The only other person to ever do that, oh, his name is what? Kobe Bryant. So, yeah, man, it's been just super fun to watch him play. Um, it's going to be him at MVP or star. No need to even think about putting him anywhere else. It's about, do you want to go him at MVP? I think at this point, trying to put him and Jokic in the same lineup is pretty tough and gives you pretty not much room to be different from the field. Um, so taking the path of having to pick him or Jokic as you make your lineups would be the more optimal path to me. So yeah, so I'll still be at the field or over though as far as having him. I'll have him slightly less than I'll have Jokic at MVP, strictly because I think in order for Denver to win, Joker needs to outproduce Anthony Edwards, and it's got to be just a huge night from Jokic, and they gotta they gotta make someone else beat them besides Anthony Edwards. So I'm hoping on that combination to happen from the defending champions. So that's what I'm banking on. However, I know what I saw with my own two eyes in game one and what I've been seeing throughout the playoffs with Anthony Edwards. And I mean, again, the minutes are there, the usage is there, and what he's doing has been phenomenal. So, not much more for me to say there. What are your thoughts on him, and who do you got here for your final pick?
Yeah, so hopefully he's acclimated to the elevation now. So maybe did a few
Yeah,
jogging
yeah,
in this downtime, but no, yeah, crazy stats for someone I believe 22 years old. Crazy to do it.
yeah,
Finally, it took what's 5 games for Fanduels to realize that he's not a 15K player. I think he
yeah,
was all 15K in the Phoenix, and it's been great because 15K makes
yeah.
lineup construction amazing. But now having him at 16K, you kind of be like, ah, dang, now I got to make actual decisions.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah, with that, like at 15K, throwing him in with Jokic, okay, got a little bit, but that thousand that hurts. And then especially like you said, to try to get creative with the remaining positions, it's going to be super chalky. I mean, will it probably
yeah,
be optimal? The likelihood that those two are going to be the top fantasy producers again, very likely.
yeah,
But Anthony Edwards' usage, just like Jokic, is 35.6 usage. So he's the guy. He was asked, does he care? Why is he passing the ball when his team's not shooting well, blah. And he basically came in, hey, if they're open, I've seen the work they put in, I'm still going to pass it. So, like, he is, like, the leader there. He has a good attitude and everything, and he makes plays. He was, you know, he actually was making, like, some good shots, too. So they weren't, like, just give me shots. Denver was putting up defense, too. So I don't think he'll have another 60-point night. Well,
uh,
if I was the Denver
yeah,
coach, I would ensure that he doesn't. I would have
yeah,
somebody else beat us if that's the case. Like I would literally have 2 people on Anthony Edwards and let whoever else
yeah,
beat us. If Carl Anthony Towns beats us, okay. If Gobert beats us, okay. But if Anthony Edwards beats us again, that's just unacceptable. Um, Will he get some
yeah.
points? Yes, but for him to have, another 40-point night, I didn't. To me, if they let Anthony Edwards get another 40-point night, I don't think Denver will make
Oh,
it past game 4 or 5. I think they might even get swept.
yeah, yeah,
So
for
yeah,
sure.
they need
And
to. They
and sorry, it's just one other note is that Anthony Edwards was optimal in every game last
yeah,
series. So, I mean, now again, that was against Phoenix, which is obviously a completely different team. But I mean, now he's even been optimal in game one. So he's been optimal in every playoff game, single game that he's been in.
yeah.
So that's, can the streak continue? Um, it, it probably will. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be shocked. But
All right, yeah. So no, obviously a good
yeah,
pick. No arguments here, and he'll probably be my first, second favorite pick. My MVP. So yeah. So getting over here to my third and final pick. Try to wrap it up here. Mr. Nikola Alexander Walker, and everybody's probably like, "What the heck are you thinking, dude? Do you not watch the game one?" Yes, I did watch game one. Yes, I know he had 2 fantasy points. It's up on the screen. I do still like him in both the pro and the utility. He's an 8K player. He didn't get his minutes went down. I think he was just having a rough night. He went 2 for 6, 1 for 5. Was from 3 pointers. So I just think he wasn't he wasn't seeing it go in. He ended up with only 22.8 minutes. His usage was still there. They were still trying to get him the ball. 16.7. Like I mentioned, 2 fantasy points. He is projected 16. But I actually see, looking back at, the Lakers game here, I mean, dude was averaging, 26 fantasy
yeah.
points. So I know Kyle Anderson came in and maybe took a few minutes away, but he looked pretty bad. All I really saw of Kyle Anderson was him yelling at the refs in game one. So I don't see any concern there. Um, but I see him having a better production and being at that 8K range. I mean, there's really not too many people that have the minutes that can produce like him at that range. So he's, I'm hoping people look at that 2 point fantasy night and his ownership goes down because he was game one, 0 MVP, point 0.1 at the star, 1.8 pro, and 37.5% at utility. So I'm hoping, it's more like, 25% now in utility. Thinking, people saw, game log troll quite a bit and see, oh, this dude's only doing 2 points against here. And then, that hard swing. And I think most of that ownership will probably go to Justin Holiday. But I don't really necessarily care for that play. But with that, I like Alexander Walker. I'm going to give him a second shot here. I liked him all in the Phoenix matchups. He was, quite a bit. I think he was in the optimal a few times, if I'm not mistaken. There, it looks like he was an optimal at the utility position. So, what do you think about that before we wrap it up here and get over to these lineups?
Nope. Great play. I love bounce back games, as you're talking about. I think having exposure to him and Jaden McDaniels, who played 39 minutes and scored 0 real life points. I'll be having exposure to both of those people for sure, hoping for a bounce back game. And again, like you said, like looking at their 3 fantasy points, 22 minutes, and then people are going to be like, nope. And his ownership will probably be half of what it was in game 1 at each spot, which will be hilarious because, great pick. I'll have exposure to him as well. He definitely fits some of my builds. I like the 8K salary with what his upside is. Great pick.
Nice. All right. Well, cool. There's our 6 key players. We actually didn't have any overlapping there, so we got 6 full key players there. So, right before we go to our lineups, please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. It does help out the channel quite a bit. We'd like to get put out in front of more people. The tournaments are getting bigger. Now we're at the 15K. Probably, next matchup for the conference finals, we might get to 20, and then, maybe 25K to first, hopefully, here by the finals. So, just stay tuned, follow DFS Insights. We're here to break down as many of these playoff games as we can. And if you're just joining us, welcome to DFS Insights. We are about to get into showing those 2 free lineups. If you're thinking, like, what are these guys thinking? Obviously hit that rewind button or go down to the description and in the timestamps or go to our key players and you understand why we chose who we did and how we chose them. So with that, further ado, get over here to our lineups. Looks like we kind of both went the Jokic path on this one, but 2 different lineups, 2 different approaches. So I like to see that. And like I mentioned before, we're here. Unfortunately, I wanted to cover all the Minnesota Denver games, but with the lack of audio for game 1, couldn't get that video up. So here's game 2, and stay tuned. We're going to be covering quite a bit of these tournaments. So with that, David, anything to say? I just said good luck and hope to see everybody on the leaderboard here. So.
Yep. Good luck to everyone out there, and see you guys at the top, and see you on the next one.